Hey everyone, so today I want to talk to you guys about a very deep subject that is difficult for most people to grasp because it's too far-fetched. It goes against their belief systems. It's not something they're willing to accept. But I know a lot of you who are watching me are more than willing to accept it, but you might need to have a deeper understanding of it. So these videos that I'm going to be doing now is more for those people who know that there is something going on and you want to change your life. You're not here to fight things. You're not here to stand, as a warrior. You're here to understand the nature of reality, understanding what is really going on so that you can harness your own energy and start to live a life that you truly love. You're not here to participate in the chaos. You're here to liberate it. You're here to elevate above it and live the life that you came here to live. So if that sounds like you, if that sounds like something you want to learn more about, then you might want to stick around. So what I'm going to talk about mostly is consciousness in the beginning, because people have to really understand, know thyself is more than just your physical body. A lot of information you all know has been hidden. Occult knowledge of the truth of who we are, the fabric of reality, the universe, and how everything works has been hidden from us for eternity, so that we would never understand, especially at this point in time, what the hell was going on, so that we would be left vulnerable, open, and susceptible to the massive mind control and takeover of humans as a species, and to actually change you from your original design into something that was never meant to be. So for all of you who know about the transhumanism movement and believe that that is a natural step of evolution for humanity, you need to wake up and realize it is not. It is a forced one. It's being manipulated by what you see and hear regularly in your external world. And when something is being forced down your throat, it is not natural, it's evil. So to understand that all of us have been kept ignorant purposely so that we would be vulnerable and open to receive information that we believe is coming from people who love us, people who care about us. It has to be truth because scientists say it. Because of what we see and perceive in the world, we have been conditioned to live by a hierarchy system, to believe that if it's something you see, it has to be real, it has to be good for you. It's got to be important. Why would our governments allow things or species or antichrist beings to poison us, harm us, and mutate us? You need to lose this belief system and open your mind if you truly want to understand what's going on. And at the end of these reels, the whole point of this is awareness. When you expand your awareness through new information, you can never go back to your original design, which is what I want all of you to understand. If you want to create the life that you love, if you want to be happy, if you want to exit this prison system, it's created through your own consciousness. It is a level of frequency that our perception has been given, and our minds have been hijacked to perceive a certain level of mind. And when you understand who you are as a consciousness being who creates, you need to understand that you and I are creating this chaos because we don't understand who we are and how we operate. You hear words like manifestation, creation, telepathy, direct cognition, clairvoyance. And these are operations that go on behind the scenes that are part of our natural nature as a spiritual being. If you don't think you're a spiritual being, you're not supposed to be here listening to these reels, because you are a spiritual being. You are multiple bodies operating in different dimensions at once. And these entities that have hijacked our consciousness, that have been interfering with humanity forever, who have been working with our government for a long time, these entities exist through our physical bodies. They take over the consciousness of the body, or they create human hybrids so that they can step in with their own consciousness. They don't have bodies that can exist here. So where are they? Do they exist here in the third dimension? No. So this is where the awareness and understanding that there are multiple dimensions that your five senses are unable to detect based on the level of frequency. And that people who have seen ghosts, people who have had paranormal activities, you got to stop dismissing them as, oh, I don't know, so I guess I'll dismiss it. They're not real. When the truth is, they're just as real as you looking at your physical body right now and thinking, I can touch this, I can see it, but there's other things that are available to us that you can touch and see when you're on the frequency of it. So I want to go deeper into understanding consciousness, because everything is conscious. Energy is consciousness and consciousness is energy. What does that mean? That means that you shape your reality. You perceive the world through a certain lens, and that is a level of consciousness. And if you're operating at a very high level of consciousness, you're very mature. You're spiritually mature. You have acquired enough knowledge to be a leader, to be able to be emotionally intelligent, to understand and see through manipulation. Because when you see from higher levels of consciousness, you no longer can be manipulated by the lower levels of consciousness. But when humanity has been put into a state of low consciousness, a controllable, vulnerable species, it has nothing else to know except what it's been given. And so it continues to generations of immature humans that are constantly staying in the same mental state of consciousness. This is mind control. And mind control is done through controlling information. So when you look back at what little history that we are provided with, censorship has always been there. All of the seers, the philosophers, the people that have been incarnated onto this planet to try to awaken humanity to the truth of who they are and what is really going on, those people have been removed. The information, the books, the scrolls have been hidden because it is not meant for you to understand yourself. You need to be vulnerable. You need to be a very immature species so that you can be controlled for what's happening right now. So your consciousness shapes your reality. That's basic. Okay? So if you are very immature, if you live from fear, if you are reacting all the time to your environment, to people, to things, you have no self-control, and you literally just kind of operate by autopilot on whatever programming you've been given since a child, which was purposely done to keep you very low consciousness, then you will continue to live your life that way, even though you want something more. This is why I want to set all of you free with the right knowledge and understanding that none of you are stuck, that none of you, no matter where you are right now, you can change your life, your reality like that. But it's information that expands your awareness, that allows you to transcend this particular reality. This is why censorship has always been there. This is why controlling information has always been there. Because the moment you receive new information and the soul recognizes it as truth, you expand your consciousness. And what all of you may or may not understand yet, because you haven't expanded your consciousness to this point yet, is when you start to expand your consciousness, your inner sight opens up. You start to feel and know things instantaneously. You don't live from the outside in anymore. You live from the inside out. And this is when you know you're transcending these lower frequencies, these lower ideas and ways of reality into the truth of what reality really is. Now, if you want to bring God into this for just a moment, not the demigods, but the true, authentic, divine God, you can't see God. God is energy. God is consciousness, infinite intelligence, whatever you want to call it. But you need to understand that when you get into those higher realms of consciousness, it has never been about your five senses. Your five senses are for the third dimension only. But you need to understand when you elevate yourself into your higher levels and states of consciousness, when you get into a level close to God, you don't need to see, touch, hear, smell, or taste. You feel. And one of the biggest things that humans have been targeted on is your feelings, your emotions. That's why I said earlier, emotional intelligence is the key to freedom. And most of humanity, unbeknownst to themselves, are kept very immature. Their emotional intelligence is at an all-time low, where they're reactive beings and they don't even think anymore. This is what is meant by hijacking your consciousness or absolute brainwashing. And with social media as a weapon, it's a dopamine overflow where you are constantly scrolling and you can't stop. You are being controlled. But when you understand how this is being done and you want to break free from it, you learn this information and you exit it. So for all of you who know that manifestation is real, that we cannot not manifest, we wouldn't have a reality. We wouldn't wake up every day having an experience of what is a reality if we weren't manifesting it. So manifestation is real, but what most people don't understand is that your emotions manifest your reality. And so when our emotions have been completely targeted so that we become reactive beings, we stay at a very low level of consciousness, a very low state of vibration. This is where we evolve our emotions from. So we evolve our emotions and we feel emotions of lack, of scarcity, of fear. We worry. We fight against each other. We allow other things to manipulate us because we're not aware that we are the masters of our destiny instead of destiny mastering us. So this low level of consciousness is a spiritual immaturity because the true information has been removed. And even though we have got an intuition that is there to give you the information, we don't listen to it or we block it because we were told it's of the devil. Anything that is trying to channel it, trying to give you something that is through your intuition is the devil doing it. So people will be afraid of it. As long as you're in fear, you're in low level of consciousness. Your emotions are being completely controlled to stay in a very low level of frequency. So when it comes to manifesting your reality or a collective reality, if the emotions of the individual is very low in consciousness, it's a very low frequency, it's going to continue to emit whatever is on low frequencies, which is based in fear, scarcity, and all of the like. This is why, especially with men, but it's also with women, we were told to suppress our emotions. You know, it's very feminine for a man to show emotions. It shows a weakness if we show emotions. So we have not been taught the truth about emotions, yet emotions are the main way of manifesting whatever we desire, or they manifest what we don't want, but we don't even know about them. We sweep them under the carpet. We don't realize that they're stuck in our energy body. These negative emotions are stuck in your energy body. These are the blockages that prevent you from ever getting to that next level in your life, or more of what you want. Because whatever you want is more, which means it's in a higher frequency. And you can't bring something higher into your field or into your manifestation unless you rise to it. But you don't even know what's keeping you anchored into the low frequency, and it's your emotions. If you are inundated with fear and worry and scarcity, if you have guilt and shame going through your whole entire body from your childhood, you are never going to be able to transcend and grow into a higher level of consciousness until you remove them. So where I want you to really get this is understanding that whatever information that you are given, whatever you're surrounded by in energy, okay, could be people, circumstances, colors, doesn't matter. It all holds energy. Every single thing has some energetic signature related to it. If you are in an environment that's been bombarded by low frequency, low energy, thoughts, feelings, experiences, okay, that puts you into that state. And if you don't ever exit that, no matter what you do, you always are around something that is low in that energetic signature. That's who you become. That's what you resonate with. That's what you're emitting from your own body, because you are an antenna. And the response of the quantum field gives you as an experience what your frequency emits. You need to understand this at a very fundamental level if you are interested in changing your life. Because you can change your life, you can change your bank account, you can change your health, you can change your relationships in an instant when you understand it's how you think and what you feel that's creating what you have. So this is where I really wanted you to understand the frequency and the nature of our environment, because we are creating it. But when you look at your environment and it's inundated with negative fear-based information, which is in your social system, economic system, educational system, it's all there. It's in everything that humans watch and perceive through their five senses. Everything has been curated in this timeline to be in a state of low frequency. So this is why 99% of humanity are hypnotized, hijacked into that level of frequency. And if you don't know anything else, if the information that allows you to know that you can get out of this isn't being given to you, then you perceive this as the only way of living. You perceive this as the only option when it's not. And this is what they never wanted you to know, that there is another option. There is other ways of you living your life if you understood how you're being controlled to live only this one. Before I move into the next big thing I want to share, and I've shared this before on my reels, but I want to give it to you in a different angle this time for it to land in a different way. What you need to understand is frequency holds information, and it keeps you locked into a certain level of consciousness. Your consciousness is what's projecting into your hologram or into your reality if hologram seems too weird for you, what you experience. You need to understand that you are in this world but not of this world, meaning that your consciousness gives you a perception of virtual reality, that you are literally experiencing something real. Okay, that is the whole point of it. It's beautiful. But who you are is not the physical body in this hologram. You're much bigger than that. Now, with that being said now, what I want you to understand is memories. The reason why we don't remember our past lives, the reason why we don't remember a lot of things is because frequency keeps you from accessing it. It alters your DNA blueprint. There is enough proof by Greg Braden and other scientists that have said that over 200,000 years ago, according to their science, they noticed that the telomeres were interfered with. They are fused together in ways that are not natural. This was not done in a lab. This was done through electromagnetic frequency, the fence that I've talked about that surrounds our planet. So what I want people to understand is there has been entities around for millennia. They are parasitic. They are vampiring energy off of humanity, off of galaxies for millennia. This is not new. This is something they've done for a very long time. Ignorance and lack of knowledge is what keeps humanity being their hosts for feeding them. We are being used. Our energy is called loosh. And when you're in a state of fear, when you're warring, when you're being abused, when you're in a state of trauma, this emits a huge frequency, an energy that feeds these low life entities because they operate in a very low frequency. This is why our reality, our consciousness has been anchored into a very low level for a very long time, because this is what keeps them alive. This is what allows them to continue to survive in their phantom matrix system. The phantom matrix you could look at as a double. It is a copy of our matrix that lives in the shadows, that lives in the darkness, but is connected to our matrix. This is why they were able to penetrate through and use us, even though we can't see them. So memories of our past lives are meant to keep us from falling for this type of trap. But because our DNA has been tampered with, because we have always had interference with our natural evolution, what's locked up in that junk DNA is all of the memories of all of our past timelines and our parallel timelines. So when children come in, and a lot of them remember their past lives, we all have heard these, we've seen them. Why is it that they remember them so soon after they are born? And then as they grow up, a lot of them lose that sense. And this is because they come in at a very high frequency. They just left outside of this controlled environment, this manipulated and fabricated artificial timeline. So they're coming in as the divine beings that we all are. They're operating in that higher level of frequency and consciousness. And once they get locked down in here, they only are able to hold on to those memories for a certain period of time before the frequencies that are emanating here shut them down. So this is what you need to understand. When you choose to raise your frequency, your consciousness, you will tap back into things. But most humans are terrified of what they know or what they will learn. They're too familiar with living in lack and scarcity and control. So as much as they say they want out of it, they're actually fearing it and keeping themselves in it. So for the context up until now in these reels, what I want you to have a greater understanding is that these entities have kept us in a very low frequency through our perception and our thoughts and the information that we are given in this timeline, so that we are kept in a low level of consciousness, that we continue to allow them to parasite off of us, to use our energy as food for them to survive outside of our third dimension, five senses. They're just as real as you and me are. The reason why we can't see them, but we can sense them if we choose to, is because they're on a different frequency. That's it. But they are here in the shadows, and they've been vampiring off of us forever. So this is why we're kept in this low level of consciousness. And anyone who wants to tell the truth and share the knowledge that would let you out of that low level consciousness, it would allow you to expand who you are, your awareness, so that you can transcend it. This to them is what they fear, because this is their lifeline. If we transcend, if we ascend, which is what's going on during this time cycle, then they lose the energy, the food, the things that will keep them alive in their black hole system. This is why they're desperate. This is why you see the push of AI. Why is everything is moving so much faster now? Now, when you're calm and you're not in a state of fear, you move in a nice, calmly manner. But when you see things rushed, when you see things pushed and manipulated and aggressively told, do this or else, that's a state of fear and desperation. That, my friends, is what these species are facing right now. So knowledge keeps you in low frequency. Mind control and fear keeps you from even thinking anything outside of the box because you don't want the consequences of what you're going to receive. So a controlled species has been what has happened here. So when you want to understand why you try to manifest something that you desire because you deserve it, but you can't seem to hold it if you do manifest it, or you can't even seem to manifest it at all, you need to understand that everything is energy and everything is consciousness. So your consciousness can only give you the level you're at. You all have been programmed to be in scarcity and fear and traumatized as a child, to live out your whole entire adult life as that little child that was traumatized. That is low frequency, and that is keeping you spiritually immature and emotionally unintelligent, which allows them to control you as adults. This is why you heard, give me the child and I'll show you the man, because when you are manipulated and controlled through trauma and fear as a child, they've got you. You're the same person, just in a bigger body when you're an adult. Let's move into this ascension cycle, this stellar activation cycle. If all of our memories were intact, we wouldn't be shocked. We would know that this is just how time cycles work. See, when you are someone who is eternal and you live for more than 90 years, you will have this knowledge. You will have this awareness because you will live through multiple time cycles in your lifetime. So when you look at the king's list before the Great Deluge, the kings lived for tens of thousands of years. And they've tried to hide that because they don't want the average human now, who only lives 90 to 100 years, to possibly see what could have happened where humanity used to live 10, 20, 30, 50,000 years or longer, and now it's 80 years. This all has to do with your DNA. This has everything to do with frequency and controlling your consciousness, because consciousness creates reality. So if you tamper with your DNA and you cut off their lifespan to 90 years, you're never around long enough to know the truth. You're never around long enough to witness these time cycles, to understand what takes place in the universe, on Earth, in the solar system during these time cycles. So that's why they can inundate you with more fear of this so-called climate change, of all of these things that humans are responsible for because they're bad humans, and that what's happening with our atmosphere, what's happening with the weather, what's happening with human resonance, it's all inundated with fear. When if you understood and you were around long enough, you know what happens during these time cycles. You understand that there's nothing to fear. But when you're ignorant, when you have no knowledge of the truth, and all of you have been exposed to fear your whole life, fear is the default mechanism that happens within you. So everything they tell you, you see through your consciousness, the filter of fear. So not having these memories, we don't understand what the 26,556 year time cycle is. This ascension cycle is something that is natural and normal that takes place every 26,556 years. But because we don't have the knowledge, we don't have the books, everything's been taken, we don't have the memories because they have been cut off with our DNA being shut down, we are innocent and reborn blank every time. This is called blank slate technology. This is part of the beast system. So that every time we reincarnate back here, we always forget what we learned from our last timeline. People think this is a learning planet. Well, it is if you hold your memories, because then whatever you learned, you take with you on your next timeline and then your next life. But you don't remember the life before. You don't remember thousands of years ago as your life, but they're locked up within that dormant DNA. And this is why they keep you in low frequency, because they can't afford any human to remember their truth, their past lives, because then you'll start to remember the truth of what's really going on. The manipulation would be done, and you and I would be able to transcend effortlessly into the higher dimensions during this ascension cycle. So to make it very clear, during this ascension cycle, they do not want any one of us, nor this planet, to transcend into higher dimensions, because we are their loosh. We're the host. They are parasites. They have been living off our energy for millennia. So if we transcend out of these lower frequencies, these lower dimensions, they can't. They can't. They're in the fall, if you want to call it. They're in a fallen system which has no choice. It cannot ascend. It's not an ascending system. It's a descending system. So they want to bring all of us with them into this descending system, because this time we are able to ascend where before we were never able to. The planet stargates, those 12 stargates on our planet, have always been interfered with. There's been wars. Everywhere there's a war right now is over top of a stargate. You need to understand that stargates are the gates that open up during an ascension cycle, which allow higher frequencies to come into our atmosphere, into our planet, and activate within ourselves for us to rise in frequency and match the higher dimensions. You cannot go into a higher dimension if you don't match the frequency. Your body will implode. This is what the transhumanism movement is all about. So being in this stellar activation right now, the higher frequencies coming to and through the planet, this is where it activates within you, and it also activates the planet, because the planet is a living consciousness entity as well. The dormant DNA, it activates higher frequencies to allow ascension to take place. If you and I and Earth ascends, that means these entities have nothing. They swirl into that black hole system without anything to keep them alive. So their imminent death is coming sooner than it would if they can take you and I and this planet and this galaxy with them. That is the beast system. This is why Nibiru is so far outside of its natural solar system, okay? It's been anchored through Merkaba technology. It is out of alignment because of what they're trying to do with this B system to prevent our solar system, to prevent us from transcending and ascending into the higher dimensions, basically going back home. Okay, so this is where I want you to really deeply understand the Agenda 2030, the digital movement, the metaverse, trying to convince all of you that you need to be a transhuman in order to move into this new evolution, the singularity. None of this is pro-human or divine or natural. This is all part of these fallen satanic beings trying to get you into a false environment, which is their black hole system, so that you can feed them for as long as possible before they implode. That is what the end game is. It's about you, them parasiting off your energy for a longer period of time in order to keep themselves alive. But they're in a black hole system. It's not an ascending system, which means when this ascension cycle is complete, anything in the higher frequencies that match dimensions 4, 5, and 6 will ascend. And anything that does not match that has no choice but to go in this black hole system with these satanic beings. This is what I want you to understand as the bigger picture of digital, metaverse, and trying to turn you into something you were never meant to be. Now, before this ascension cycle started, brainwashing humanity was taken. It was done. It was very easily done through MK Ultra, through low frequencies, through hidden information, through the educational system, social system, media. It was working. It was able to keep you all in a low frequency because it's all based on information. But see, when this ascension cycle started, what happens is higher frequencies are coming to and through the planet, not only from our sun, but it's coming through the middle of our planet, the center of our planet. It's like the heartbeat of our planet. And these frequencies start to wake up the dormant DNA within human beings. So the mass mind control is going to fail because the only way they held it in place was through frequency external to you, meaning the media, everything that you learn from, all the books, all the information was external to you, and this kept your mind controlled. But when higher frequencies start to come to and through the planet and activate within you, your dormant junk DNA, you start to grow in awareness. Your frequency starts to rise. And the moment your frequency rises, you start to activate or you start to access information that you can't access when you're in that hypnotic low frequency state. So they had to step up their game. They could not afford humans during this stellar activation to remember their past timelines, for those memories to come back online. They could not afford any of you to rise in frequency because the moment you transcend the lower frequency, you are no longer food for them. They're losing their energy, their feeding systems every time a human rises in consciousness. So, since Atlantis, this is called the Luciferian Covenant. This was created. This is what they knew. They've had this all on an agenda since Atlantis. This is not new. They didn't just come up with it a couple years ago or in the 1940s. No. This has been a plan, an agenda since Atlantis, that they were going to have complete control over the human mind when these higher frequencies came to and through our planet. They do not want you, Earth, or the solar system to rise in frequency, so it has to keep you locked into low frequency. And it can no longer work from external brainwashing from society, the system. That's not strong enough because the higher frequencies are literally activating your dormant DNA. So now you are going to start to understand why those were going after your DNA. They want to control your DNA. They want to prevent your DNA from activating through these higher frequencies. They want to put these things that you know is being put in our air and our water so that the frequencies that they emit from Gwen towers, from CERN, from the 5G towers, from the satellites, they can now start to use you as a signal, as a transmitter, and hold you through external frequencies now in a low state of consciousness. This is why they want to be able to read your mind. This is why they want to be able to know your biorhythms. The invasiveness of this takeover is unbelievable. So their digital reality, their digital artificial world that they are pushing on all of us to believe is our only way out in evolution. It is the next step for humanity. It is not the next step for humanity unless you accept it. Even though they control the media, they control everything right now, it's up to you whether you accept or reject this natural evolution into a digital artificial world, which is basically your mind, your consciousness plugged into the metaverse, where it looks just as real as our world now. It's your digital twin life. It's your digital twin world. It's to trick you into believing your consciousness is in the real world when it's not. So the Internet of Bodies, the Internet of Things, all of this advanced technology, this isn't advanced. This technology's been around since forever. It's ancient technology. But because our memories have been wiped, we don't remember that this technology has been used on us many, many times. So what you need to understand is this technology is their agenda, their lockstep plan of hoping to control humanity's mind from the inside out now. They've always controlled your mind from the outside in. But this is what those injections were for. This is what the mRNA and all of the synthetic things that people are finding in the bodies of humans. This is hooking you up to a synthetic, artificial hive mind so that your mind is completely hijacked and every thought you think is being controlled from the inside out. That's desperate. Now, interesting enough, I've shared in my past reels that these satanic beings, these entities cannot create. They cannot create. They are not connected to the life force energy that you and I are. They disconnected. This is the fall. They are no longer connected to God or our source. They are disconnected, which means everything that we have, that we get from being connected to God, being of God, is no longer available to them. And as co-creators, we are made in the image and likeness, we can create. We can manifest. And so this is what they have gotten us to do through our own consciousness. Hijacking our thoughts, hijacking our minds, allow us to create a chaotic world that we live in. We've actually created the prison that we live in. And then we try to escape it by trying to change things in the physical prison. When it's a mental prison, we created it through the mind. That's the only way to shift it, is to create something different in the mind. This is why they're after your mind, your thoughts, and your feelings, because that controls your level of consciousness. I hope you're starting to understand that the external reality has always been there to brainwash you, but now they've stepped it up to put things within your body, to put these antennas, these satellites, these 5G towers, the Gwen towers, CERN, to put these things in place around our planet so that when they emanate a certain frequency, if we're in low frequency, we will connect to it like a hive mind, an internet of bodies, and now your mind is 100% controlled by these AI entities. Now, when you look at who you are as an organic being connected to source, you got to look at how they're mimicking what God created. If you want to look at the quantum field physics, they tell us, science, that we are all quantum entangled. We are all connected. We are all one, which means the hive mind, if you want to use, of universal consciousness, of God's mind, we are all part of God and God is part of us. So we have what you would call quantum entanglement, which is a hive mind with God. God knows our breath. God knows our thoughts before we even think them. God knows everything about you, and you are connected to God. Now think about that for a moment. These satanic beings are the opposite of God. They're trying to create copies of what God created. So this is what the Internet of Bodies is. This is their attempt to become gods to us, God's children, by creating an artificial hive mind, the Internet of Bodies, connecting your mind to their system so that it takes you away from God's system. So this is the transhuman. A transhuman is unable to ascend. The natural divine blueprint of who we are when we came into this matrix has to be intact, no less than 8% before, or we won't be able to ascend. So if you attack the DNA blueprint, if you change the expression of God's creation that came to and through the 12 dimensions of this matrix, it has no recognition to ascend out. You have to be the same frequency you came in with. You have to have the same model or blueprint you came in with. If the system doesn't recognize you, it cannot allow you to ascend. I hope you get that. By them changing who you are, the expression that God created us as, into something that God didn't create, you're no longer acknowledged in the system of being part of its natural system. You don't fit, the model don't work, the code's off. And so ascension, when it takes place, it will reject anything that isn't part of its natural essence. This is what I want you to understand. This is why they're after your DNA. This is why they're trying to change your mRNA. This is why they want you to be a transhuman, synthetic, everything that is not made by God, but made by this anti-God, so that you do not match the frequencies of this universal time matrix. And that means that you have no other choice. You match the fall time matrix, the phantom matrix. This is where they have been stuck since the fall of Atlantis. So you have to understand that they are putting you in direct alignment with satanic systems, the artificial timelines. These are fake. They're not real. And they're trying to cover up and copy God's creation by controlling your mind through an artificial hive mind, through the 5G towers, through the satellites, through what they're putting in your body and what they put in those injections to alter your DNA blueprint. Just like some of you have played virtual reality games, when your mind gets inside those goggles and it starts to play the game, it doesn't know anymore that it's not in a game. Your consciousness now believes that you're actually in that particular environment. This is why people break TVs, they fall downstairs, because they lose their consciousness of where they were, and they're now immersed into a world that seems just as real. This is what they're doing with the metaverse. This is what they're doing when they connect your mind up to the hive mind. They are going to control your mind at certain wavelengths, and they're going to plug you into the metaverse, which is your digital twin, your digital world. This is why they've collected your data from Facebook and all social media systems, so that all of your children, all of your friends, your environment, your normal environment is now a copy in the metaverse. So when you step into it, you won't know the difference. It is so blurred that you won't even know whether you've stepped into this artificial digital world or are you still in the organic world. And that is what they're doing now by blending. People online can tell, is this real? This artificial, is this AI doing these videos now? They're doing it purposely. It's like the boiling frog. They have to do it slowly. And that's how you program a human. You do it slowly over time and repeat it. You need to stop letting them do that, so you don't blend into their digital reality and not know that you're already in it. So I know that what I've shared this before years ago. This is a very dark agenda, but when you look at what they're doing, they're killing humans, they're sacrificing humans. You've got all Silicon Valley scientists and techs all worshiping Satan, and they're all telling you this online. Like, you don't have to be ignorant any longer. You can find that they're talking to you about accessing these demigods, these ancient satanic races. These are where they're getting their downloads of information of how to build CERN, how to build these synthetic AI technology. This is where this information is coming from. So you need to understand that you have to protect yourself. No one else is going to protect you. And the way you protect yourself is through knowledge, right? When you understand the truth and you allow yourself to let go of everything you've been taught, because that's what you're going to have to do. You're going to have to let go of everything you've been taught in this timeline, because all of it's been anchored in lies and misinformation. And when you allow yourself to tune in and listen to your intuition, listen to people like me, or access books that are still around of people who taught this information, you start to expand your awareness. And when you expand your awareness, at the same time, your consciousness rises. And then you will access new information. Your inner sight will start to come back online, and you will no longer be fooled. The people like you and me that can see through the veil and always have, that's because you have your inner sight online. That means that your higher frequencies, your DNA is not dormant, or it's not all shut down, because you're able to access higher frequencies. And this is why we've always seen people throughout our history that have been able to tap into this information, but the majority don't. And so when they share this information, like what I'm sharing, the natural thing that you get is pushback. The natural thing you get is people making fun of you, or telling you that you're a psycho, or telling you that you're crazy, because it doesn't align with their perception or consciousness. But these people like you and me have to keep going and living who our truth is, no matter what external people say, doesn't matter. Because we have to look after ourselves, and when you look after yourselves, you help others. So accessing the quantum field and raising your frequency is done through your mind. It's done through your thoughts. It's done by unplugging yourself from this timeline, the 5 senses, and going into your imagination and creating exactly what you want there. This is how you transcend this lower timeline. The reason why I shared the big picture is because I want you to understand what is going on right now behind the curtains. Actually, it's actually in front of us right now. And most people can't allow their minds to expand enough to believe that anything to this extent is even possible, because we've been living in the Stone Age. The technology, the ancient technology that's back again, has been around for millions of years, and we don't remember because our memories have been shut off. But when you raise your frequency, you start to remember the truth. And the truth does set you free. This is why you hear that saying, the truth sets you free, because the truth allows you to perceive life from a different timeline. It allows you to access information that you cannot access when you're in that hyper sleep. And so when you awaken, you start to see the truth. But you have to align and live from that truth, and don't plug back into the five senses of what you see out there. Create your own reality, live abundantly, and that's what will awaken the rest of the humans on the planet. So these reels are made not just to bring your awareness around the truth of what's happening, is to prevent you from being caught up in this internet of bodies where you cannot get out of it. So the ones that pay attention and align with what I'm sharing, I'm creating these reels so that you understand this isn't about fear. And if you are aligned with me, you're not. You're aware now. It's an expanded level of consciousness. But I'm speaking to you who has that soul awareness of being here for something bigger, something more. You want to be wealthy. You want to be rich. You want to make a big impact in the world. You want to live abundantly. You want to express yourself at a higher level. You know there's more to you than what you already are, and you want to unlock that because you're here to live an abundant life. That's how I feel every single day. That's how I felt my whole entire life. So I am speaking to those who have always known within themselves as children that you are here for something big. And all of the suppression and all of the rejection and all of the masks you've worn up until now to fit in, you have to let go and be the version of you, your soul's purpose that you came here to be. You can transcend the lower frequencies the moment you change how you think. Your consciousness changes by your thinking. So when you align with your inner self and start to lead yourself from your heart, not your head, you will change reality. You will change your whole entire experience. So this is why I said at the beginning of these reels, for any of you who feel stuck, you're stuck because you're living one wavelength of perception. You have no other avenues. You don't know where else you can go. It's like you're only on a two-dimensional scale, but you have a multi-dimensional scale to access. Quantum field means infinite possibilities are available to you based on your level of consciousness. This is what they don't want you to know, because this level of consciousness that you all have been plugged into right now won't allow you to see anything else but one point of view. You're trapped in this timeline through your five senses. But when you transcend them and you create a reality in your imagination that's just as real as the physical reality, then your five senses will now show you that reality. And that's how reality works. That's the fabric of reality. Consciousness creates. So when you take back your mind, when you take back your consciousness, you can create a reality, any reality that you desire. And why I love this for those indigos, starseeds who are resonating with this, is that 100 monkey effect that I've talked to you about. How they've kept the collective consciousness in such a low frequency is because a certain percentage of humans, if they think a certain way, flip the whole entire collective into that same vibration. That's how they've kept you locked into this consciousness, the whole entire collective of humans. So we can flip it the other way as well. When a certain amount of us think from abundance, live from abundance, and transcend the lower frequencies of limit and lack and start showing people that you don't have to live that way, that abundance is your birthright. When enough of us live from that level of consciousness, then we can flip the collective consciousness onto that. And then all of us can ascend. All of us can transcend these lower timeline, the fall timeline. This is a black hole system that they're trying to suck humanity into. And it can only happen if your frequency matches their black hole system.